public comment period pursuant to Tennessee Public Chapter number 300. Time is reserved for public comment on legislative items appearing on this committee agenda. We do not have any public comment speakers that I am aware of. So we're going to move on with our agenda. First resolution, 2023-2341, Roden Hurt, Syracuse, Welsh, approves a grant from the Tennessee Arts Commission to the Metro Arts Commission for general operating support to expand, improve, and develop the arts in Tennessee. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. I see Mr. Sad here. Would you want to give some background for us?
Chairperson Hurt. This is just our annual operating support grant. We receive this every year from the State Arts Commission. There is a bit of an increase this year. I think we had about 70,000 last year. This is up to 100,000. I believe this is still where they're trying to make use of some of the funds that they had from COVID. They're still trying to move around. So we're thankful there's additional funding. But this is kind of an open grant that we get to use for all kinds of things throughout the year. So it's not dedicated to any one item.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions, comments? Thank you very much. All in favor? Aye. And opposed? Thank you. Bill on second reading, we have BL 2023-2111, Roden with his Hurt Pulley, authorizes the granting of a temporary overhead line easement and a permanent underground utility easement to Electric Power Board of the Metropolitan Government for certain property owned by Metropolitan Government. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
I'm going to ask legal to give us some comments in regards to this, please.
Okay. Well, in my review of this legislation, this is just this allows 4 temporary easements or I believe 3 temporary easements. I'll have to look at the analysis again. Plus, in addition, there would be temporary overhead easements during an ongoing project. There would also be a permanent underground easement. I believe that this may involve some parks property, which is, and I believe the director of parks signed off on the easements at this point.
Mr. Carroll, did you have anything you want to add?
He has the assessment correct. It's just that we are preparing for development across the river, and so what we're doing, we're taking out some of the overhead and putting in some underground, and as the property downtown develops more, we'll take that temporary easement down and it will become underground. So it's a step in the process, and it's across Parks property, which is why we're here for y'all today.
Okay. Councilmember Henderson?
I was just going to ask staff, please, if we can make sure that the captions of bills, just for public understanding, I know it's in Parks Committee, to your point, and kind of asking the question, but just kind of clarifying where these things are and just making sure the caption is, somebody just reads the caption. Obviously, there's backup and so forth, but I think at a glance, it's good to know kind of what it's affecting. So I just would ask that we try to do that, please, so that we can say, it's Parks property and or the location of the Parks property. I think that's just helpful to the community.
Yes.
So,
and council members as well.
yes.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. And BL 2023-2112 approves a greenway conservation easement and a participation agreement between the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation and 301 Ben Allen LP for greenway improvements.
So moved. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Staff, you want to just give a little?
Sure. This involves an easement that I believe is on an existing development that's being built in the eastern part of town and on Ben Allen Road. This is between Dickerson and Ellington. But at this point, we had a greenway conservation easement and a participation agreement. Just as the development came in, that there would be a possibility, if there was a possibility of a greenway,
Okay.
that would be an option there.
Thank you.
Can greenways just kind of contextualize it a little bit, like
Sure,
what?
I can a little bit more. Everything he said was correct. It is a trail-oriented greenway or trail-oriented development.
Okay.
So it's not along a waterway and it's not down in the urban core. and the developer will dedicate an easement for the greenway as well as the participation agreement, which covers construction and maintenance.
And can I just ask a procedural question about these participation agreements and these dedication? Do we have kind of a standard document that we always kind of execute in situations like this? Or do we, I know obviously everything's context-based, so it might be customized in some regard, but can you just sort of speak to that process? Because I think, I think sometimes the community has a concern that like a council member, like Councilman Syracuse or late-term council member, they know the greenway connections that they're trying to make in their community. And so when we see a development come around, then we're like, ooh, yeah, this could connect a piece of the puzzle. And I know that you all have been under-resourced as to your staff and master planning of greenways and standpoint. So can you just kind of share with us the process? Like, who flagged this? Is it because it was a trail-oriented development that came to you? Or was it like, hey, this hit development's radar screen, we knew there was a greenway potential? Can you just kind of speak to
Yeah,
that
so
back-of-house process?
There is an ordinance that addresses trail-oriented development. This is in an area that was identified for that. We do have a standard greenway easement template that we start from. And, the public-private partnerships have increased over the last few years, so we've developed something that we start from in those participation agreements. But again, as you said, it is site-specific, so
Okay.
sometimes we.
I've just had some concern that it seems like when we let out a capital project, right, mostly on the NDOT side of the house, but it might have, say, like a greenway component to it. And like if you look at the Francis Guest Connector, for example, right? And it's got greenway kind of designed into it, like the multimodal path on the side. It just seems like it's kind of piecemeal, right? Like, the associated trees that are going to make the greenway nice to utilize, that's Jennifer Smith, who used to be at NDOT, is the horticulturalist, has all these separate contracts to maintain that stuff, but then now she's at Water. And so I just, when you talk about a participation agreement on how that's going to be maintained, I assume when there's an associated private development, they're going to maintain that because it behooves their occupants and the appearance and condition of their development. But again, kind of the piecemeal bit of it. So can you kind of speak to greenways maintenance more generally? Like, what happens in between all these developments where you have these multiple participation agreements, right? Like, is there ever a time then collectively over time that all those folks get together and we're maintaining it in a more collective way, like, an increment, right? They're actually paying in a little extra something to maintain that greenway. Or is this just case by case by case by case?
Well, we aren't there yet.
Okay.
We're building out the system, so
Right.
we're putting the pieces together. And there is a distinction between what NDOT does with multimodal trails in the public right-of-way and then what Parks
Right.
does, where we're trying to get people off the road even more and conserve open space.
Right.
And develop a park, a linear park. So the majority of the greenways currently, Parks maintains. But as we're able to have developments that are coming in where we have a greenway planned, we try to work out that partnership with a developer that's going to have a greenway on his property or directly adjacent to our property.
Okay. And with your new greenway planning positions that the council funded and you're getting hired in, is somebody just like data mapping that? I mean, just as these developments come online, again, so that council members aren't kind of always having to stand in the breach and say, oh, hey, I know it's 8 years from now, but I think this is on the path to the thing. Like, who's flagging that or getting that, or,
So,
Is it
Plan
flagged
to
in the
Play-
system?
Plan to Play is the base master plan. We've got staff who works with Metro's GIS staff
okay,
to keep kind of the overall database. With new staff, both Parks Planning and Greenways, we've got folks coming on who have GIS experience.
Right.
It's important to have the overall available for the whole city.
right, yeah.
And so we work with GIS, Metro's GIS department for that, and then we have our own internal.
So if a potential developer is oblivious to the, 10-year from now greenway potential of something, and they sit down at the planning department, it's gonna get flagged.
Flagged.
Yeah, okay, awesome, thank you so much, Cindy, I appreciate it, thank you for all you do.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, that ends our meeting. It's